G'day guys, back again, another video today. I've got a 2004 Honda Accord 2.4 litre petrol. It's coming for a Misfire, running rough. I've already had the code reader on it and there's no codes in the system. So we're going to jump out there, we'll take the top cover off and we'll get the GTC 505 and see what's going on with any spark and make a decision on what to do from there. Okay, we've got the top cover off here. We've got the GTC 505 ready. So let's start this up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, nothing. 4, we've got something. Let's just clear that, get that together. So obviously we've got no spark here. We're going to go against our cardinal rule and we're just going to quickly swap these over just because they're so easy to swap over and see if the Misfire follows. So we'll do that and I'll get you back up. Alright, we're swapped over. We'll just start this up and we'll check if the Misfire has followed. So we've got spark there on number 3 and our coil that's in number 4 now is dead. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get an amp clamp around the power wire. I'm just going to have a look and see if it's shorted and see if there's anything we can see. Alright, we've got our amp clamp over one of the power wires to the coil. Let's go to the screen. As you can see here, absolute telltale sign of a shorted coil. So let's get the new coil in there. We'll put a new set of plugs as well. Make sure there's nothing funny going on and then we'll get the known good capture up against it. Alrighty, the new coil is on. We've got 4 new spark plugs. We connected up the amp clamp again like we had last time. Let's go to the screen. Hopefully you can see that, but clearly right here you can see that ramp is now directly straight up. So what we'll do is we might get these side by side and you can see our actual amperage has gone up too. We'll get these side by side and we'll compare them. I'll get you on the big screen now and we'll have a look and then we'll go from there. So we're looking at the known good first. There's only a couple of things we really want to look at here. First thing we want to check is obviously the steepness of this ramp. We want to make sure that as soon as the turn on happens that we have got a beautiful current ramp that's even. The other thing we want to look at is down here, the turn on oscillations. So we should be seeing that. If we're not seeing that, there's a problem. And the other thing we just want to look at is the amperage of the coil. So as we can see, we've got 10.3 amps here. They're really the main 3 things we're looking at. Everything else is very similar. So let's go to the faulty coil and let's have a look at that waveform. Okay, so we have got the bad waveform up, our faulty coil. So the first thing we can clearly see is this section down here. We have got no turn on oscillations at all. And instead of the beautiful ramp that we had on the last one, on the actual known good, we have got a little steeply rising area, and then we've got our normal ramp there, which is indicative of a shorted secondary winding. There is a chance that obviously a shorted spark plug could cause the same waveform, but not super likely, but obviously it's always a possibility, so we've got to make sure we're checking the plugs at the same time as well. But clearly we moved our coil between cylinder 3 and cylinder 4, so obviously the Misfire followed, which indicates that the plug wasn't the issue. So the other thing we are looking at is our amperage. It's slightly lower. If you remember, the last one was above 10. We're about an amp or so lower. Not really a major factor, because obviously unless you're replacing the coil with the exact same brand coil, there might be a slight difference in amperage anyway. But just, you know, for curiosity's sakes, we're looking at that. Regarding our secondary, shorted secondary here, let me just bring up another color. So obviously in our coil we've got a primary winding and a secondary winding. So the reason why we know this is a secondary winding fault or a short is because of the way the waveform is actually started. A very short steep rise and then it continues on with the current ramp. If it was a shorted primary, it would typically be a direct straight line before the current moves. So
you know, for those of you that don't know how this 3-wire coil works, I'll draw a little basic rough sketch. Inside the coil, we have basically got a primary winding. Just do it like that. We have got a secondary winding. Okay, so like I said, this is a basic diagram, a basic theory of it, but what happens is we have got a 12-volt signal that's connected to the coil. Constantly, we have got our negative, which is connected to a transistor that is operated by the 5-volt signal from the PCM. So what happens is when the PCM turns on this 5-volt signal, it completes the circuit, current flows through the primary winding, and that creates a magnetic field. When the 5-volt signal is stopped by the PCM, it breaks the circuit, the magnetic field collapses over the secondary windings, and that induces a high voltage which then goes through to the spark plug. So what we're seeing in this waveform is the secondary winding is shorted. If it was the primary winding was shorted, we would see that straight up line, but to be honest with you, it actually doesn't matter, because if either of them are shorted, it needs a new coil anyway. So regardless, it doesn't matter. You don't really need to know whether you've got the actual steep line and then the ramp, or you've got the straight line. It doesn't matter. It needs a new coil anyway. So that's the basic operation of it. And you might say to yourself, well, you know, you swap the coils and that's the right test, and you knew it was a coil. You don't really need to get the current clamp out and actually check it. But that's great in theory. But if you think to yourself, what happens if you've got a V6 or a V8, or you've got a manifold covering a coil that you can't get to? So this is where a test like this would be absolutely the easiest way to find out what's going on with it before you can go to the customer and say, you know what, I need to take your manifold off and get to that coil and plug. So well, that's very high level, and you know, if you want more detail about the operation of it, there's plenty of information on the internet. So, you know, definitely have a bit of a Google, have a look around and see what you can find. But that's where we're at. So I hope you're happy with that. Let's go back to the car.
Alright guys, we're wrapped up here. This is a confirmed fix. Customer will be happy, out the door, no more misfires. Thanks for watching. Hope you took something out of it. Please subscribe. Thank you.